Man,
Alhamdulillah.
listen.
Assalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome to the Man's World podcast. We're here today to continue our discussion on whether you should allow your wife to work. Remember, we're speaking to men. Just some logistical stuff. If you have any questions, please enter them into the chat so we can answer them. We also have a link that I'll post in the chat as well that you could submit anonymous questions, and we'll try to answer them to the best of our ability at the end of the show. We're going to continue our conversation on what wives working because last time it was entertaining, but we had a lot of disagreement. We want to make sure that you guys aren't confused by any of the things that we were talking about. So we continued our conversation offline throughout the week. Kind of came to like a nice understanding of a way to present this information so that it could benefit you guys. Because our point of our show isn't to debate, even though there will be debate because we're men and we're going to disagree and we have different styles and perspectives and theories on how to be the best husbands, fathers, and all these different things. However, we want to help y'all and get that information to you guys in the best way manner so that you guys are not confused. So just a word of advice for our listeners: if there's anything that you see that we don't all agree on, right, it's okay to say, okay, I identify more with the position of Hussein or Mubarak or James or Jafar, but what you really, 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 really need to pay attention to is the stuff that we all agree on. Like, that's really the meat and potatoes of the message we're giving you. If you see that all three of us agree on something, and you don't agree with it, then that's something where you say, okay, wait a minute, I need to step back and maybe think about what I'm doing here or how I'm thinking about things. We're just going to go down to questions and we'll go around. What you guys can answer this first, and I'll jump in because I'm just going to post some stuff in the chat. But the first question is, why is the default setup or the traditional setup of where a man is the maintainer, provider, he's, bringing home the bread and bacon, or however you want to call it, and the wife is the homemaker, the stay-at-home mom, and takes care of the family and the household? Why is that the best setup? Why is that the recommended setup?
All right, I'll go first then. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I would say the first and foremost reason why it is the best setup is because this is really how Allah set it up, and it's how our Creator has kind of made us built for doing certain tasks. Women are better with children, especially younger children. They're the only one who's constructed to actually feed children on the go, these type of things. So the woman is going to be better suited in homemaking, if you want to call it that. And the man is just better suited in going out physically, bringing in resources, food, and, protecting and all those things. So that's number one. That's why it's the best setup, because logically it works best that way. The woman is inside the home for the most part. She's taking care of the children. She's protected within inside that system. And the man is kind of outside, or he's making sure that, number one, everyone is safe, everyone's fed, everyone's clothed, everyone's protected. And it usually works that way. The man is going to be better at going out and bringing in the necessary resources for survival. I don't think anyone is going to argue with that on average. And then the woman is going to be better at those things that are inside the home. So that's the reason. But, if we go further than that, the man, because of the position and nature of men and women, the woman is going to have more of a respect. She's going to fit in easier with being in a position of a help and a submissive place with her husband if he's the one who is bringing in the resources and doing those manly things. If it's turned and the man is inside the home kind of taking care of the kids and these side of things, and the woman is going out and working and doing, securing the necessary resources for the family, then it could work, but it's not ideal. It's not the way that things are built. They're made. It's like you could use the hood of your car as a table. You could put a tablecloth on there and you could eat on there and you'd be fine. It could work, but that's not what it was made for. That's not the best use for it. So in short, that's why it's the best. We could go more, but I think we get the picture.
Yeah, to achieve the optimal results and to try to get the best success out of the situation, the default would be that, for all the reasons that Mubarak just listed and many, many more. When you start to get outside of your frame, the framework of your biology and how you've been created, obviously it's going to get a little wonky because you're not performing at your highest peak of what you're supposed to be doing. Just like he just said, that would be the equivalent. Or I'll give an example. If man is, he takes on more of a submissive, more of a more feminine type of role, and the woman takes on more of an aggressive or domineering or dominant position, she's a little bit more masculine, there's going to be a serious clash. I mean, it can be held up for a little bit of time, but ultimately, because we are, we have a biology, and we're naturally going to continue to go back into those directions created. So it's never going to work over a long period of time. And I honestly can't even think of a situation where that has worked successfully over a long period of time, so yeah.
Yeah, and I'll same thing with these brothers just said, and I'll just add a couple other points of why, why it is this way. And as Mark said, the real reason why is because this is how Allah set it up. But you kind of look into the wisdom of it, and as Hussein was alluding to, is we're created a certain way, and because we're created a certain way, men and women, we default to certain types of instincts, certain types of patterns and ways that we think, things that bother us, things that don't bother us, things that we gravitate to. And essentially, we can get into a lot of different things, but it's best that a man, and we don't want to talk about exceptions, we want to talk about most cases, a man wants to be a leader, a man wants to be in charge, right? A man and all these different things, it's best to have that situation set up. Now, a woman, right, if you take her out of the dynamic of where she's working, whether the household needs it or not, right? We're not even going down, we're going to answer those questions a little later, but you take a woman outside of the household. Another thing that it affects is now the woman is obtaining things that if she was primarily in a household dealing with her husband and family, she would have to satisfy those needs, whether it's psychological, emotional, spiritual, financial. She would have to satisfy those needs with what's available to her, which would be her husband and her family, her kids, and all that. Now, you take her outside of that, you're adding another layer of what she will satisfy those needs with, right? So financial, it'd be the job. Emotional, it'll be friends at work, bosses, and all these sorts of things, where now that is not only like, we're not even talking about like, okay, do your household duties and take care of the kids. You're now adding another layer of someone who's providing for your wife that you actually aren't the one providing that for. And we can go into like divorces and all the different reasons of why divorces happen, besides like the ones that are clearly like the guy's fault, those ambiguous ones like, oh, I wasn't feeling fulfillment, or he wasn't satisfying emotional needs, or whatever those things are. When you give someone an alternative, they don't think about escaping or leaving what they're currently in until they actually have an alternative, right? You don't start thinking about buying a new car until you're like, oh, you know what? I actually have money to buy a new car, right? So that's just another aspect of it, is your wife, speaking to the men, your wife will be satisfying these other needs through other purposes, other sources. And the other thing is, the big thing is that we talk a lot about having like a mission statement or a strategy or a vision for not only your marriage, but your family, right? As a man, you're the leader. So if you're a leader, you have to be leading them in some sort of direction. Now, again, with the idea of taking someone off that we talked about Mubarak talked about last week about having two boats, right? You're pretty much taking someone and putting them partially in another boat that isn't necessarily matched up with your mission, with your strategy. And at any point, there could be a conflict of interest. And so by having that traditional setup, it avoids a lot of these things that can cause marital discomfort, could destroy marriages, and all the other negative things that come. So that is just everything what these brothers said, and just add that on. The next question we had, or that we came up with to kind of work through this, is, well, what are some valid reasons for a wife to work? And I'll start this one. You guys could just jump in. So of course there's the economic goals. If there's some kind of financial need there, right? You want to buy a house, you want to buy a car, you want to go on vacation, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve that takes some kind of financial need. That's a reason that your wife could work. Also, one thing that I'm big on personally is the security thing. So with my wives, even though they don't have to work, I want them to be able to work, right? I want them to have the skills, the knowledge to be able to, if something ever happened to me, they could easily go out and start taking care of my children while I'm gone. And if you think about that, how many different sisters have you known that either they're divorced or maybe their husband dies? Usually it's divorce, but then they're in a situation where, like, I got to rush and find some man. I got to settle. I got to do all this because I don't know how to take care of myself. I know one sister that was so isolated and relying on her husband. When her husband was out the picture, like, she didn't know how to use like a debit card. She didn't know how to like pay bills, like just simple things like that. So along that mindset, it also can provide security. Okay, you learn what the workforce is like, right? And you have the ability to go and get a decent job to help your family if something happens to you as the provider and maintainer. It also, another benefit could be societal things, right? If a person isn't acclimated to society, doesn't know how the society works, and maybe there might be in a situation where, the wife doesn't really understand what it actually means to work, right? Where, like, they've been taken care of in a good situation. They've been taken care of by their father until they got married a husband that could take care of them 100%. And you may actually be experiencing marital difficulty because she actually doesn't value what you do for her. It's like, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to take care of the kids or get a babysitter or whatever. I'm going to give you a few months to go see what that tastes like. You go ahead and see what that tastes like, right? And then the other one we talked about a little bit last week is just intrinsic goals, like whether it's self-satisfying for needs, goals, that's another one as well. But you guys go ahead and jump in.
Oh yeah, I was on mute. I was waiting. So I'll say this, and I don't think that the default for a man is to work, is to earn a living, to provide for those people he's responsible for. That's the default. So a man should always have that in his mind, even from when they're, old enough to know what using their hands and feet or whatever is. From 2, 3, 4 years old, they should be thinking. And, as fathers, we have to put them in the mindset of, I am, a person who's going to be of service to other people. People are going to be dependent on me, and I have to work. I have to be dependable, right? The default for a woman is that the man brings them resources for them to make the home with. That's the default. The man brings you the resources, right? And so I don't think that as a default, a woman should have to or should work outside of the home to earn a living or anything like that as a default. And so the only reason I feel is valid for a woman to work, if you say, hey, you want to work, is that there is an economic benefit and it's for a specified goal for a specified term. Now, it may be some situations where a woman is in a situation where they are going to be either the breadwinner or they are going to help with that, and they're going to do it until, they die or retire or whatever. But I don't think that's the best way, and I don't think it's for everyone. the default, as we said in the beginning. But for sure, the only reason why anyone should work, even a man, may I mean, if they have money, I mean, to just go out and work for somebody else is interesting. Maybe if you run a business or whatever, and it's helping the community. But as a default, I don't think that a woman especially should work unless it's for a specific economic goal for a specific term, to reach the economic goals that you have set up. If it's just because of something else intangible, a feeling, fulfillment or whatever, I think it's dangerous. So that's my take on it.
So I would even add to that, because in the society that we live in, actually I agree with both of y'all positions. I can actually see the middle ground in both of y'all positions, and we have to be realistic. We have to be pragmatic about things and our environment, the economy that we live in, all these different things, and how difficult it may be to keep things afloat. Even if you're sometimes you might be at the bare minimum for a little while, and then a woman might be like, "Oh, I'm tired of the bare minimum. I want us to do X, Y, and Z." But just like you said, Mubarak, if you get to that mindset and you want to do something, there has to be a clear direction. It has to be a clear path. It can't be this willy-nilly, oh, I'm just going to go and work and there's no structure and all of these different things. No, because then problems start to arise. And also, social media too is we don't really talk about it a lot, but a lot of times it'll be perfectly fine. But then she looks on her social media and her girl, some girl is over here talking about, oh, my guy took me here, or I got this Chanel bag, or you can make this much on YouTube, and yada, yada, yada. And then it kind of gets, it persuades her to come, even though, again, I'm okay. Me personally, I think my stance has been very clear. I'm okay if you want to get down and do some work, or if you even want to develop some skills for yourself. Totally fine with that. There needs to be structure. There needs to be structure. This can't be this willy-nilly type of stuff. And me personally, I don't prefer my wife or my wives or anything to go outside of the home. You need to come up with some type of home-based business, online service, or something that fits your niche or what you have skills to do. And that would be a little bit more suitable for a person like me. I wouldn't be comfortable with my wife driving all around doing this, interacting with all type of people and men, and getting influence over here, doing all this stuff, all for the sake of trying to help. No, I think that a man should be capable. I think these are really hard conversations, once again, because social media a lot of times does influence women, and they feel like they're missing out on something. They might, quote unquote, get bored, or they might just get gassed up with some type of little word salad that they hear off of social media that inspires them to try to go get a job. And again, as long as it's for the family and you're working as a team, you have a specified goal. And like you said, Mubarak, for a specified time. I mean, if you ask anybody, would y'all want to work for the next 20 years if you didn't have to? They're going to say no. You know what I mean? They're going to say no. Would you prefer to work for 3 years or 5 years? And then you can chill and kind of get on autopilot. Most people don't have those options, but this could be an option if you would get on the team and work together for a specified goal for a specified time. So that's my take there.
So let me ask you guys a question real quick, just on this topic. So if it's valid reasons for a wife to work, of course, we could say if you're talking about your living situation, your ability to provide food, clothing, shelter, the necessities, transportation, all those things. If the husband's salary is not able to cover those things, then I don't think anyone is going to be like, oh, well, don't ever send your wife to work. I mean, if it's a need for the necessities for the family, I think everybody's in agreement that, if she can do something that is going to help, it's not going to put her in danger or something like that, of course. What outside of that do we look at and say, okay, these are valid reasons? Okay, because we touch on, okay, so if you have a specific financial goal, right? Say, listen, we need to buy a house. We need to get $50,000 raised or whatever. So you're going to work for this year. You can make $67,000 working at this job. So we're going to save all of that money. We're going to get our $50,000 in 12 months. Maybe we spend a little here and there, maybe some taxes or whatever. But if you just work, not spend it, We can have that 50K, you put it on the house or whatever, off we go. Done working or whatever. But things other than that, in a specific financial goal, is there anything less than that that you could say, for instance, if the husband is sufficiently taking care of all of the needs of the family, food, clothing, shelter, transportation, or whatever, reasonable, things that they want. If it's a matter of the wife wants to go out and eat more, or she wants to go on more vacations or whatever, would it be a valid reason for the wife to work just to supplement that and say, listen, I'm going to work because I want us to, be able to go to, this vacation 2 weeks here, or maybe, do some other things? Is that a valid reason for the wife just to work for those extracurriculars? They're perfectly halal or whatever, but the husband just doesn't want to be spread too thin doing those things on a monthly or weekly basis.
Me personally, I would not think that's a valid reason, but I do know people, close people to me, to where their wives have actually worked specifically for those reasons. And they seem to be working kind of well. But me personally, I wouldn't, think that was a valid reason. But again, everybody is different. Everybody has different circumstances, different, relationships. But I personally would not think that's a valid reason.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight real quick for our viewers is that most of the stuff we're talking about regarding a wife working is in the scenario of the husband is already taking care of all the needs, right?
Right. Exactly.
So this is one of those things that we totally agree on, all three of us, is that if all the needs are not being met, right, then everybody in the family chip out. Kids might have to go to work, get a paper route, whatever. Do what you got to do to meet the needs of the family, right? So just keep that in mind when we're talking about these things. So, I think this is how I think about it. And when we're talking about, the first question we asked, or I feel the second one, about valid reasons to work, and Mubarak's the only valid reason is, financial goals. And I mentioned a few other valid reasons. So I think we're the way I look at it when you're asking that question is, I don't look at it as a valid reason as that's the one thing that's going to actually make it okay for that person to work. I'm looking at it more like positives and negatives. Like here's a positive here's a reason why you might want your wife to work. And then invalid reasons are more like negatives. Here's reasons why you wouldn't want them to work. And then when I say okay, would you let the person do it? So getting into your question now, the wife wants to work to go on extra trips or eat out more or buy better clothes, whatever it is, right? Unneeded financial stuff. And I think that falls into, okay, that's one of the positives. You can get extra stuff, right? You can get the wants. You can graduate from needs and get into the wants, right? Satisfying wants. And my answer to that question is really, it depends. And because each person has to analyze their situation of, okay, this topic of work came up. Do the positives outweigh the negatives? So in that situation where the wife says, I want to go to work because I want to have more trips with the examples you gave, the husband then has to assess, okay, this is what we're going to get out of it. We're going to get extra trips. We're going to get vacations, this and that, all this luxury, I'll say luxury stuff that we don't need. And I think the bar is the risk of this being detrimental to our marriage and family less than the benefit of this actually being conducive and helping our marriage and family? So, and if you create a situation for instance, you're fighting with your wife every week because she wants to go out to dinner and you're like, no, we can't afford it. I want to go on a trip. No, and it's causing some real marital issues. It might be worth it for the husband to say, you know what? I know she's a good woman. I know she don't be out there flirting. She don't be engaged. She's a good Muslim, all these different things. She's not going to be tempted as maybe the average woman would be in the workforce. I think the risk is low, and the benefit of just getting this issue off our plate for our marriage, I'm going to go ahead and do it. So I think that's where the discussion really comes in, is you have to weigh these things and make a determination with this in mind, that the default, the best, the safest, and this is something I had to when we were debating and thinking about it afterwards, is there's a lot of different things you can do to bring your marriage to like heights, but there's a million more things that you could easily do, that it could just ruin your whole marriage, ruin your family. And from the perspective of a man that's the leader of the family, and when we're talking about marriage and we're talking about families and all that, you actually have to be risk adverse. You have to be like, you know what? So if we put it into terms of like investments, you as a husband and a father would not invest in Bitcoin because, like, you know, it's risky. I'm talking about when it first came out. Oh, it's risky. It seems like there could be a big payoff. You have to have the mindset, like, you know what? I'm not going to risk it because we're doing good right now. I'm living. I'm not going to chance sabotaging all this just for the sake of maybe making somebody a little bit more happy. No, we're good right now. So that's my long-winded answer to, like, would that be a valid reason if they want extra stuff?
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
let me add on to that, because what I've noticed, well, you have to have real hard conversations, indirect conversations. This is one of the reasons why your analogy, Mubarak, about the boat going separate ways was a really good analogy, because that's where I feel like a lot of the problems are. So I'm the type of, I'm gonna use me as an example. I am the type of person that I don't want to work for the rest of my life. I have it in my mind that, okay, next year is going to be my year. Me and my brother, we always joke about this. Next year is going to be our year. Next year is going to be our year. And we have this in our mind because we want to achieve financial stability and financial freedom. So with that being said, if the woman who wants to just work and, you know, I feel like we haven't taken any trips. We haven't taken any trips, and I want to get the kids some better clothes. My mindset is, hope not yet. Not yet. Let's grind this out. Do X, Y, and Z. Because once again, if you asked anyone, would you grind hard for the next 2 to 3 years with me? Would you get on the team with me? I know you don't have to, but would you hop on the team and let's do this for the next 2 or 3 years to be millionaires? Would you do that? Would you be willing to do that? 100% of people are going to say yes. I'll say, I'll be nice. 99% of people, if you ask that question, you know, depending on your relationship, they're going to say, yes, I would make the sacrifices for the next couple of years, but not everyone's going to do that. So I do believe it starts with that conversation and having a real direction and goal. Because if I'm working for the family and my goal is constantly to get us to a place where money ain't a thing. You feel what I'm saying? Money's not an issue, but yet you want to work. And I guess the scenario would be, the boats are going the wrong way. You want more vacations and you want more, you know, luxurious clothes, or you want to eat out more. I'm like, no, let's hold tight because we can do this. And it's out of the rainbow. Let's do this right here. I'm the leader. You feel what I'm saying? It's my job to steer the ship. And you have someone who's in a little canoe, got off to the side, and they want to just take a little side detour over here. It doesn't work. So, and I was just adding on to what Jaffa was saying about, you know, maybe I should just let her. I understand that example, but it depends on where y'all trying to go. If you're cool and you're okay with everything that's going on, you know, you live in the status quo, you know, you pay the bills, and she want to get a little job. You have no real direction or goal for the future. She want to just get a little job to go and, you know, y'all start taking more vacations and stuff. That's cool. But if I'm trying to go this way, I'm the leader. It's my job to steer the family. I would prefer both. Even if you got a little canoe, I would prefer that canoe to be tagging along, following me along this way for a specified period of time to where we can get where we're going. And then it's blue skies and green grass, you know? So that's how I, you know.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I think this is a good segue to go into invalid reasons, or reasons why unacceptable reasons to work, because all of my commentary is going to be on that direction anyway.
All right, I'll go first then, so you can kind of close us off on that one. So I think the one that popped in my head first, and I think as I'm looking at what I wrote down, I could summarize it into like one, anything that violates what the standard is for Islamic families, anything like this whole idea that some men nowadays have like, no, we got to be 50-50. We got to, that's totally invalid reason for why your wife should have to work. It's probably the biggest. And this is just other ones that are, you know, it could be valid depending how serious they get, but mostly like if this is the reason why you want to work, it's invalid. If your wife comes and says, I just want my own money. Okay, I'll give you allowance and you can do what you want with it. Like there's these other reasons this need could be satisfied. This sole need can be satisfied by some other means than you just going out and getting a job. Right.
Yeah, it was a hard money. Okay. Conversation. Just a real conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, here you go. Here's your allowance. Do whatever you want with it. You don't have to go to work for it, you know. So there's that. I'm bored. You're bored? Okay, well, go do this. Learn this online class. Do this. There's other things you could do, right? And the other one is I want independence. Well, the whole reason why we're married, especially as Muslims, and the dynamic to make this successful is that you actually depend on me. That's going to help us be successful in this marriage and this family. If you want to go outside of that and just be independent, well, you also could just be single. Like, so why do we need to do this together? So, yeah.
Yeah. If for instance, you know, some newlyweds or whatever, or people without children, or maybe if their children are grown up already, you know, like if you got teenagers, I mean, if your youngest child is a teenager, I mean, you really don't have a lot to do, unless you're like, for my kids, like I might, you know, spend a lot of energy with them, like training with sports and different things like that. But I mean, for the most part, a woman's job is done. Really, by the time that child gets about 10, I mean, really before that, really it's about a 7 or 8. I mean, that kid is on autopilot, and all the real heavy lifting starts getting on the dad, because usually when the children are, you know, out of line or acting up, what happens? I'm gonna tell your father. So you wind up really, you wind up really being the one who's on the scene. And before that, the mother does have a lot of work to do. But I would say if she's bored, my response to that, if a woman is bored, my number one thing would be, is there a skill or some education you could get to where it can be an insurance policy to where if you have to work, you can make more money or a lot of money? So I'm a big proponent, and people always like, sometimes they're like, you know, why do you want your wives to be educated, but you don't want them to work? You want them to go to school, but you don't want them to work. I said, because it's insurance. And so if you do have to work, you want to be in a position where you're going to make good money and you're not going to have to go work. I mean, it's not a knock on people who work in some of the you know, janitorial services or you know, the service industry or whatever like that, but that's not where you want your wife to go and all of a sudden she's a dishwasher in somebody's kitchen somewhere in a restaurant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you've ever worked as a dishwasher or a busboy, I mean, like you're like, I mean, people throwing stuff at you, you know, calling you're soaking wet or whatever. And look at your wife; she's trying to work as a dishwasher in a restaurant. She's wet. She's in a wet T-shirt contest because you got to make some money. No, I mean, it's like no. What she should do is, while she has that downtime, says, "I'm just bored, so I'm just going to work at Forever 21 or somewhere like that, just kind of like, you know, Old Navy, folding clothes in the mall, just doing little safe stuff." No, that's not enough money for you to be doing it. Instead, I would rather you, if you're bored, go to school, educate yourself. Many states let you go to junior college for free. You can get a degree in nursing from a junior college. You can get an associate degree in nursing at a junior college and literally go and be making, you know, $30, $40, $50, $60,000. I mean, $60 an hour, different places, if you just would do that. Now, it's some work involved, but to send your wife to work at a little rinky-dink job, or, you know, I'm just going to go drive around and do Uber or something, just, you know, because I want to do it for a little extra money, which, I mean, Uber, that's dangerous as heck. I got somebody to pick up, really. Anyway, and I'm going to get it out. But the point is, if they're bored, work, obtain a skill, you know, educate yourself Islamically. There's things that you can do. So bored is never a valid reason to.
Can I jump in real quick on the going to school part before I forget? You want to also make sure, because sometimes depending what career they choose, like they want to study. One, make sure it's something that's actually in need and that they can use pretty much for the duration of their life, for the majority of their life, right? Something that, okay, this has longevity, right? Not something like, oh, we need it this year, then in 5 years, no one's going to be hiring that for that position again. So you want to make sure it's something like that, something that's in need and has some longevity. Two, you also want to pay attention to what type of field it is, because certain types of fields have certain cultures that come along with those fields. Not saying that like a woman would work here, but like, for instance, I won't say his name, but he works in like mechanics, and it's known that like, okay, this is like locker room talk and you have to be real chummy. So letting your woman go work in a certain type of culture is going to put her at risk of a lot of bigger things. And also the other part I wanted to mention is that if when your wife does get into a field and learns the field, that she can go out and work just in case for some security things, make sure that they're staying like relevant for whatever licenses or whatever, like, because for instance, I'm an auditor. Every year we have to have a certain amount of like educational credits to keep up with to be able to go to work. So like if my wife went and wanted to be an auditor and then she doesn't, I'll give a better example. I know of someone who had his wife graduated law school, passed the bar, then never worked as a lawyer, and that stuff expires. So like if he passed away or something happened and she doesn't have, she has to literally go back to school again and learn all that stuff over to get licensed. So I just wanted to mention that you have to really be on top of these types of things. And like Hussein said, it has to be structured. It has to be planned. You have to think about what you're actually doing.
And I wanted to touch on the board thing real quick, because from my angle, if a wife, quote unquote, I mean, I know there's different circumstances, but let's say she has children and she gets bored. I don't really feel like that's something that's acceptable. You should not be getting bored, because you should be wanting, as you want to be a good wife. Most wives are going to say, yeah, I want to be a good wife. You want to be a good wife, you should be working to try to perform at the highest levels of service for your husband and for your children. This includes educating the children Islamically, keeping up with them, all of the academically, all the different things. I'm not saying that you don't take a break. You can go to the park with them, all these different things. You bored and you're a mother of 2 or 3. That just honestly sounds a little childish. I'm gonna keep it real. It sounds childish to me.
Look what really happens, and y'all, I know y'all could recognize this because everywhere I look I see it happen. So as Mubarak said, at a certain age, kids become self-sufficient, right? And you see what happens like when the mother gets, so we'll say bored, we'll classify as getting bored. And instead of like continuing on, like, okay, I don't have that much daily responsibilities I have to do for this child to survive because they're a teenager. What do? Instead, they become their friends, right? They become like, oh, now we're companions now, right? Instead of like still like trying to train them and teach them and get them to be better, and because they're not adults yet, they have no idea what being an adult is. They have the girls have no idea what it means to be a wife or a mother. The boys have really no idea of how to be a man, right? But then now the woman, a lot of mothers are like, okay, I got a new friend, right? Because women, I say this all the time. Women actually really don't have any true friends. Like you find that they really like they have like maybe 1 or 2 true friends. The rest are just talking crap behind. They hate each other, whatever, right? But then they suck in their kids, and it's actually a detriment to the kids. Because now they're looking at their parent, the person they're supposed to be looking up to, learning from, like, oh, this is my friend. I could talk to them, however, right? And then it affects the parenting, because now the mother's like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to tell my child what they need to hear because it's going to affect our friendship. I don't want to go down this table, but I just wanted to mention it because it gets into the parenting aspect of it. And it's something I know I've seen and I've encountered all the time with it's like an alienation tactic that actually happens during the marriage, where now, because the father, we stay in our lane. no, I'm your dad. I'm gonna teach you a lesson. I'm gonna show you this. I don't care about being your friend. It'd be nice if we were friendly too, but I want to make sure you learn what you need to learn so that you can be a successful adult.
And I would even add to what Jaffer's saying, because he 100% facts. I would add to that, what happens when it does affect the parenting is the child starts to lose that respect for the mother, because now she's viewing her as, oh, we're almost equal and all this stuff. And the mother has taken this weird position to where she has kind of like got herself to a lower stance. And then when she tries to get back up into the parenting space, and she has to actually do some discipline, now she's raising her voice a little louder and stuff, and the daughter or the child's like, man, get out of here. You know what I mean? Because of that space. And just like you said, Jaffer, the father, typically, we would like to be friends with our children or like to have a close relationship, but we're your fathers first. We are the husbands first. We are the authority first, you know, and all that other stuff comes secondary, you know, as long as those things are in place.
Yeah, I think also that it's easier, and I think it's actually reversed. I think it's better, stronger for boys, men, and even women to be, you know, close or kind of friendly with their father or something like that, because men automatically have a certain amount of men keep boundaries. Sometimes women they kind of like, they just like, you know, they do certain stuff, wearing each other's clothes and doing just random stuff, like, you know, like women, they almost, their boundaries are blurred a lot of times sometimes. But for men can be close, but still have certain boundaries that they're not going to cross, and they're going to kind of keep things, you know, in line. But what also happens is some of these women, they will, their children, especially their daughters, become their only friend. And sometimes they prevent them from getting married. They interfere in their marriages. I mean, I've seen that where, you know, mother doesn't have any friends. So a daughter getting married, and that friend that you had for years now prioritizes their husband. Yeah. And so the mother is calling, oh, why aren't you answering the phone? You know, I'm with my husband. And mother just can't function, you know, because, you know, that was her only friend. And so, you know, that does happen. So it's dangerous. And even to where sometimes, you know, the kids, the daughters that get older, they want to start wearing the mother's clothes and stuff. I'm like, no. I'm not trying to do a double take, you know, and I'm not trying to figure out who's who. Now get out of here, you know. So that's something they do too. So it just got to be careful.
Sorry about that tangent, y'all.
I just found out. We off the tangent after this. I just found out that all three of my daughters. So my younger daughter, who's coming into the puberty stages, she's magically now wearing the same size shoe so all three of them wear the same size shoe as their mother. So I'm like, what? You know, I literally just found this out like a couple of days ago, that, you know, my younger daughter, her feet is growing and stuff. So now they're all wearing the same size shoes. So they just wear each other's shoes. So you good.
3 pairs is actually 9. Y'all rotate them, Joe.
Almost. But it's just, I've never experienced this before. You know, I've never had teenage daughters. This is my first time. Well, I guess my first and last time. I don't know. But it's my first time having teenage daughters getting to this height. And I was just kind of mind blown. Like, wait, what? Y'all all wear X, Y, and Z? They was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. So, of course, John, for my default thought was like, yeah, I'm going to say straight. It's like, what? So anyways.
No, I want that pair. I want that pair, but orange. It's the same day. Right. Homie love. But Mubarak, we interrupted you, but you're going on about you're talking about the negatives, and about the one you ended on was about just being bored. But you had more examples of or not negatives, reasons, invalid reasons to get married.
But yeah, so I mean, and even more than that, I think that the issue that we kind of touched on last week about, you know, that need for self-fulfillment. And I will say this, it really has, you have to really be careful. Well, as we say, 90, I would say almost 95, maybe 99. I won't say 100%, but but a huge percent of success in a marriage is selection. So you have to choose someone who is going to be able to run your program. They're going to be able to vibe with what you got going on. And so for me personally, I'm a type of person where I struggle mightily with dealing with people that can't wake up in the morning and have they don't have like, okay, I got this to do. And they like have some sort of purpose for the day. Like I can't deal with those type of people that's just like, let's just do something fun. It's like, it's 5:30 a.m. You should be like, let me get something like you trying to get stuff done. Like you don't wake up and immediately like, I don't know, like start trying to watch TV or something just weird like that, So if you have the type of person who they're just happy, and like everybody is not going to be, PhD. Everybody is not going to be, highly accomplished or, otherwise we wouldn't have people. If everybody was rich, you wouldn't have someone when you pull up at, the fast food joint, start flipping your burger. Everybody, like we might be like, man, I'm not flipping no burger, but someone else is like, man, I got a job flipping a burger. They're happy to do it. So there's people at different levels, and we need people at different levels of education and of skill and of life or whatever. So there's somebody for everybody. That person who has no ambition, who really does not have a drive in their life, I can't function around them. And so I find that very hard. So that's one thing. So if you have a person who is bored and they're really not going to be a person who's going to go out and go to school, they're just not going to do it. They're happy with just being them. So you might not be able to deal with that person. That might be a person where you need to say, Barakallah Fiq, man, Allah bless you, but you need to go that way and I'll keep going this way, because it's not going to work. Or you just have to accept this person. Maybe they do need to, get a job at the library, because you're really not going to do anything else. Maybe their children are older, or maybe they can't have children, or maybe they have that time and space in their life. But that the person who is maybe ambition or whatever, they can do things, but they just need that self-fulfillment. I think that is maybe the biggest invalid reason, because it's dangerous for several reasons. The person is not fulfilled with what they have. So they're not satisfied with what they have right now. If they're having their needs met, they ask something from their husband, they get it. They don't have any needs for food, clothing, shelter, or any of those things. And so they're not satisfied. And I need something else. When they go and do that thing, they still will want more. The human being, as Rasulullah said, you give the child of Adam, the son of Adam, basically human beings, one valley of gold or one mountain of gold, they're going to want another one. And so the thing is that fulfillment is going to be something else. First is, I want this job. Now I want that higher position in the job. Maybe now I want the promotion, or I want to, I mean, it's been times where it's like, but this job, but they're opening up an office in Orlando or somewhere that's, and like actually considering it. It's like, that shouldn't even cross your mind. But, it's, you got kids, you got a husband, you got all this, but so that thing is always going to drive and push you. Now, if a man is driven like that in his profession and he's moving across the country and doing all this because they're dependent on him, but for the woman, that's dangerous. I would say that is not a valid reason, because I think that it opens Pandora's box for other things. It also, this is what you got to think about too. When that self-fulfillment is in an area where they say, I really want to be in this area. Now comes along where you have the boss or the supervisor or whatever, or other men in that area who may be above her. She's going to naturally be looking up to them. They're naturally going to have an advantage of, basically. Now you might think, well, my wife would never. That's what everyone thought when their wife went off to work and they had an affair or whatever the case may be. So, and a lot of times, every single time, if you look at the stories, the woman says, well, I wasn't planning on having it. It wasn't something I planned. I didn't plan this, Billy, or whatever they say when they're apologizing for their affair. But the thing is, it's a natural progression when you have, think of some area or something that you really have a lot of respect and admiration for, and you're really passionate about it. And then there's someone else there who's also very, very passionate about that same thing you're passionate about. And they just really get me. They understand, what I'm, I tell my husband about these things that we work on, and he's like, yeah, whatever, yeah, sure, that's work stuff. All right, yeah, okay. But you just really listen to me and you get it. Yeah. Next thing you know, he's getting her. So it's like, it's not everything, but it is, as Jaffa mentioned earlier, about be risk averse. It's a risk. It's a risk for the woman, because a lot of times what happens is they get caught up in that situation, but the guy, he's got his situation at home or whatever, and he actually doesn't want her like that. He might want to spend some time with her, and then they wind up. This happens in non-Muslims a lot, but it happens to Muslims sometimes too. So that's also a danger. I'm not saying that every person who goes out to work does that, but it's something that you have to look at. And the other things where once that fulfillment is not fulfilled, they're going to keep looking and trying to get something more, maybe in the same area or more in a different area. But that itch will never be scratched. That satisfaction, that self-fulfillment has to come from within. It has to come from a spiritual place. But trying to find it in the dunya, in this world, no one has ever been able to do it in the history of the world. No one has ever been able to be truly fulfilled, chasing some worldly aspirations or goals or areas. And Allah knows best.
Yeah, I just want to add on just a little bit to what Mubarak was saying, or just maybe critique it a little bit, is that he's definitely right that you're never going to find that fulfillment. And for men who, or anybody who's been through living through the dunya and going through those phases, and it all goes back to maybe setting the boundaries of, one, if your wife asked you to come go work and say it's for the reason of I need fulfillment, I have this degree, before we met, I went to college and got this degree, and I want to be able to use it, whatever that reason is, whatever scenario you come up with, you really have to ask yourself, as the husband, as the father, or the husband, the leader of the family, does this benefit our situation? Okay, so if you determine that, okay, and I'll say, like, if it's self-fulfillment, is there, like I said, is there other ways you can get her to have that self-fulfillment, right? Is there, the first stance is, oh, you don't feel fulfilled? Okay, yeah, go get a job. First, the conversation, like, well, that's actually not going to make you feel fulfilled. Allah says this, Allah says that. Okay, well, hey, can you get fulfillment doing X, Y, Z? And one of the things I didn't elaborate on is, like, for instance, a societal need could be met also by your wife working in certain situations. For example, like, say you happen to be lucky enough to live in a Muslim country where your wife could be a nurse, and Muslim women need Muslim nurses to go to be able to see Muslim doctors. So there's that situation as well. So say you have that best case scenario that your wife got she's a doctor, right? And so, well, I'm a doctor, I can help people. Okay, yeah, all right. You want to work? You can bring in good money. You know what? Maybe we need to relocate to a Muslim country where you could be a doctor in that country. I can go do my job there too, X, Y, Z. But it's all really, like, you see where we're going. It's all about protecting the marriage and the family. And when you get into these reasons that we're saying are invalid, it doesn't mean if that's the reason you automatically say no. It's like, okay, well, that ain't going to do it by itself. Do I have benefits that are going to outride this invalid reason? Most cases, it's not. The answer is going to be no. I'll tell you that right now. Most cases, the answer is going to be no. But if there's some extreme scenario, you are some special cases, like, okay, I got a good wife, I got a good family, and to keep this intact, I need to let my wife go play with getting self-fulfillment, so she realized, like, that actually didn't give her self-fulfillment. Maybe, but those are few and far between. Mm-hmm. So just keep that in mind. It's dark gray, and when I say dark gray, means like it's mostly black and white. Mm-hmm. You may find a little bit of gray area, but odds are, we say this all the time, you are not the exception. You're not the exception, and your wife's not the exception. Okay.
Exactly. And just to add on that, just to put a little bow on it, to recircle all the way back to the default position. The default position is there for a reason. This is a protection for the family at large. If the woman stays in the home and the husband goes out and does his thing, it's also a protection for individuals like the woman. It is a protection for the woman that she stays inside of the home and she's best suited and tailored inside of the home. This is actually a protection. It's a form of protection. A lot of times women don't see it or view it like that. They view it like, you're oppressing me, you're holding me back, you're doing this, I can't do this. But overall, you know, our job and one of our functions as a man and as a provider is to protect, maintain, protect, and provide. So again, Allah or God having it this way, and this is the natural default of a man and a woman, is there specifically for a reason, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or God, the creator, knows better than us. He created us. So this is why that default position is there and in place, because it's a protection for the entire family. So, if you all don't get anything from what we're saying, please understand that at least.
Yeah, and I think we covered a lot of the negatives and positives to what we talked, so I won't get into that. The next thing, they have a scenario with a wife is needed at home, but she wants to work. Okay, the wife's needed at home, but she wants to work. And if the husband does his analysis and he figures that, okay, it's better if I allow her to go work, what are some ways that the husband can facilitate that or support that action?
So I don't want to say to come off as being too negative, but you can't
speak your truth, brother. Speak your truth, man. It is what it is. I mean,
I'll start us off. And that might get you enough to start speaking. So I would say, again, if a husband thinks that this is going to save his marriage, if this is going to improve his marriage, way beyond the potential risk that the marriage, the wife, and the family is going to experience, some ways that he could help facilitate that is, he could help at home, right? He could say, okay, well, there's stuff needed at home, so you can only work part-time, put some boundaries around it. If they got it like that, they can hire help, right? But then, like, you run into, as you add in more ways to facilitate it, you also have to think that these are adding on more negatives. So you do your first analysis and be like, all right, I'm going to create an extreme scenario just so we can illustrate what's happening. If I don't she's a good woman. Let's say, A, she's a good woman, great family, everything's good. But in order for me to say, save this family, save this marriage, because of whatever she wants to work for, I got to let her work. Extremely rare situation, but let's just say that's the situation. So now you did your analysis of the plus and negatives. But now you're like, okay, so how can I make that happen? Every decision you make to help make that happen adds on to the negatives. Right? Okay, I'm going to hire help. Okay, that means I'm losing money. Okay, I'm going to help around the house. Okay, that means I'm adding stress to myself, X, Y, Z. So you have to keep that in mind that once you do your preliminary analysis of the cost and benefit, then anything you have to do to actually facilitate to make it happen also adds on to the cost of it. So don't lose track of that.
And you also said, just to be clear, I'm going to let you go real quick, Mubarak. Just to be clear, you said the scenario was she's needed at the home, but she wants to work. Is that it?
Yes.
Not okay. So she doesn't need to work. She wants to work, but she's needed at home.
Yes.
So we're gonna have to go right back to the default basement position. If you are needed at home, that means your husband needs you at home in your default position. He needs you back. Go back to factory default. You want to get outside of that and do something else, but he needs you here. That's going to create a problem, a serious problem, because there's a need that's being vacant for a want. That's a luxury. That's what it sounds like to me. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but go ahead, Mubarak.
Yeah, Yeah, you just this is someone you have to consider leaving. You have to consider leaving because for them to even come to, and I'm trying to. Like I said, they pay us.
Well, let me give you a scenario because I know a scenario that's pretty close that may make you think about what you're about to say. Okay. So there's a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's good about her. She's religious. She's pious. Good wife, except she is not motherly and she is not a homemaker whatsoever. So think about what you're saying. Think about there are cases of situations like that where like but she can go. She actually can work and loves to work. So
okay, so like
rare. I'm saying this is a rare exception. I do, but I only know one person like this, by the way.
like I said, I didn't say just leave her. I said you should consider leaving this person.
True.
Because as we said, she's needed at home.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't need her at home, that's something different. But if you need her at home, what you're going to wind up, and I can tell you from experience, when you do this, when you need a person to do something, and it's literally like having, let's go to the donut shop. Let's go back to the donut shop. You need someone to make 100 donuts. You need one person. Just make these 100 donuts. If you make it in time or whatever, you can take breaks or whatever, but I need 100 donuts a day. Can you do it? Yeah. All of a sudden, the person wants to, I really want to work on the marketing or whatever. You know what I mean? I just want to work the register. Listen, what I need is 100 donuts. Well, I don't, I'll make 50. I can make 50 or maybe I can't make any or whatever. What you'll wind up having, you still need the 100 donuts. So you're going to have to hire someone else to do that job. Then you're paying double because the person is not saying, hey, I know you need me at home, but I don't want to do that. But they're not going to say, well, don't pay me. Okay, I'm not going to make 100, but they still want to be paid. They still want their time, their benefits, their maintenance, and all that stuff. They're never giving that up. These people usually they don't say, well, and any person who hears this or whatever, when has a woman said, well, you know what? I want to work outside the home or whatever, but you know what? In exchange, I'll give up my time. I'll give up my nights. Or I'll do something as a compensation or whatever you're doing for me. Then I'll give that up. They never do that. It's just let me do what I want, but you continue to do what I need from you. So you do what you need. I'm not going to do what I need to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. You're always going to be behind. It's like borrowing on high interest. You're never going to pay off that debt. You're always going to be behind. You're not going to have enough to catch up. So that's why I say you should consider leaving this person. And you have to give that person to ultimatums. This is what I need. And so in order for me to get what I need, I either need you to do it or I have to get another person to do it. I had a conversation with my wife years ago. let me just give you the scenario, right? I always say, listen, I'm never going to put my kids in public school. And I never do. It doesn't matter how many kids I get. I'll never put them in public school. That's me. That's my thing. I say, they should be taught at home. I don't think it's that hard. It doesn't take that much time. But yeah, someone does kind of need to be there too, especially when they're younger, to get them over the hump. So she says, all right, why don't you just, put them in the Islamic school around the corner? I gave her all the reasons. I said, okay, listen. Well, it wasn't around the corner. It was some distance away. I said, look at the time you have to take. Who's going to take them there? This is the cost for tuition. This is look at all the kids or whatever. X amount of Z. This is how much money it's going to cost plus time plus X, Y, Z. You see why this won't work? All right. Yeah. Well, why don't you just hire a teacher then? I said, all right, I'm going to hire a man. I don't want no man walking around here. All right. I'm going to hire a woman. I don't want no lady up in here. Okay. Now, but I can marry another woman that way. There's no fitna. It's just a woman, man, and she's gonna do it not for free because she's getting the maintenance or whatever. So the thing is, it's always going to be like that. And when you break it down like that, you'll realize that you're literally going to have to duplicate that person, the need that you need from that person eventually, because unless they're willing to give something up. Now, if that person says, hey, you know what? I know you need me here. I want to work. I'll give up my time. I'll help out. Matter of fact, I'll go to work. And whatever you have to pay to another house or an apartment or whatever for another wife to come in and do it, then I'll pay that, right? I'll pay the rent on her house for her to come in. Then I'll be like, all right, let's do it. Great, go to work, But other than that, that doesn't happen. So you have to consider leaving that person. And the longer you are delusional about it and thinking, well, maybe I can make this work or whatever, it's just going to prolong the inevitable. You're not going to get your needs met. You're still going to have to meet their needs. And you're going to wind up the thing that you needed them for, that task, that job is going to be undone, and everyone is going to suffer.
Okay. Next question. Can a husband demand the income or any portion of the income from his wife if he does allow her to work?
Mm-hmm. So this should be really quick, because I said that because I did my own, analysis of the thing. And I said, definitely you can do it. And I came up with that if I needed my wife at home, I don't need her to work. And she says, I want to work. If that ever happens to me again in my life, I will listen, I don't need you to work, but if you're adamant about working and you're committed to me and this family, then 100% of what you make needs to go to me. Not that I'm going to take it and just spend it on myself, but I'm going to spend it on furthering the family's, financial goals or whatever. And I'll let you know what those are. I'll let you see everything. So I know there was a lot of, even some people were like, how can you do that? So I asked the sheikh about this question, and I won't go I asked him in Arabic, but I translated it. But the point is that, long story short, yes, you can because the wife cannot leave the home without your permission. And this is what he explained. The wife can't leave your home without your permission, and you can impose conditions on her, on her leaving the home. For instance, you could say your wife can't leave the home, but she can go to her mother's house, or you can go to Walmart but not Target, or you can go to the park but you can't go downtown or whatever. So the point is, at the end of the day, if you want her to be at home, then you can stipulate that if you're going to work, then you have to pay me for you not being where I need and want you to be.
What if someone says, "Oh, I'm just going to do an online job in the house," because you're always going to get these little technicalities. Now break that one down. I'm not leaving the house, so can I work online in the house? I mean, because for me, I have my thoughts, but I want to hear what y'all.
It's real. It's so when you say so, the thing is these rulings are for all time, right? So we have to expand what the meaning of remain in the house means, right?
Because it's still a time transfer.
Yeah, and a good example is like, for instance, a man and a woman that are non-mahram to each other cannot be alone with each other, right? Or shaitan is a third party. That doesn't just apply to physical space. You also can't be alone together in an online chat room, right? That's being alone. So even and Mubarak can correct me if I'm wrong, the idea is like, I need you in this space, in this attention span, and you logging on to go work online is also technically leaving the house. So if a man is the only gray area that when you're going to run into issue as a man is if you are not taking care of your responsibilities as far as the needs of the wife. Once you're in that position that you're providing and taking care of all the needs of the wife, right? She doesn't have to go to the government. She doesn't have to do all these different things to satisfy her needs. Then you are the driver's seat for anything she does outside of that. So then you could put any conditions, I mean, as long as they're halal conditions, on what comes from that. Okay, you want to work online or you want to go outside to work, you can only work 10 hours a week. That's it. Any of the 50% of your check is coming here, or 100% of the check is coming here. Whatever you decide, you can put whatever stipulate, because it's your decision whether she actually goes and engages that or not. You see, and there's a bunch of different, like what Mark said. You have the example of she can't leave the house, right, without your permission. The other example for is like going online work would be she also can't let nobody in your house without your permission. So that could be used like, no, you cannot log onto that website to go log in. Sorry, you can't do it.
So, well, I would say this, and whatever it is that you are needing your wife to do. For instance, you say, hey, if she's working online from home and not taking care of the children, or you can't get anything to eat when you need to, or maybe you want to spend some time with her and instead she's working, or when you get there she's asleep because she's been up all night or all day working online or whatever, and now she's not available for you or the children, or when needed, or she's not able to keep the house up because she's working. Now, then that would fall into the category of similar to her going outside to work. But if she is staying at home, she's taking care of the kids, she's taking care of the house, and it's basically her free time, kind of what Jaffer was alluding to, with like, are you entitled to 100% of your wife's time? You are entitled. She should be available 100% of the time, outside of biological needs and whatever she has to do for her Lord, her religion. But if, for instance, if she's spending 24 hours a day inside the home, I mean, the husband is not going to have her doing things 24 hours in a day. So if she has 4 hours to chill or whatever, like, if the husband is not going to stop her from sitting down and watching a movie for 2 hours, then, I mean, if she's working, then that's different. I don't think she wouldn't be taking his time. So I think and this is my opinion, that if she has free time and she's not taking the time that she should be spending with her family or her husband, anything like that, and so no one else is suffering, and she's using her free time to work, then I personally don't think that anyone is entitled to that money. It would be the same as her getting something from her father or inheriting it or having her own money. When she's using your time, the husband's time, that she should be doing things for him and with him, and instead she's working.
Well, you have to you're looking at it as a time base, but you have to look at it as just permission based.
Yeah,
because she actually can't work even if she has 10 hours of free time a day. If he says, for all the negative reasons we mentioned, because you could say, no, I just don't want you working. She has to like obtain his permission. Like, I want to work, So that's how I look at it.
No, I
agree with Jaffer, because and the reason why we want to kind of pin some things down so we have a clear understanding and the audience understands what we're saying, and we're trying to cover every basis here. Permission. You have to get permission from your husband. You can't just say, because again, does he know about it? What if you get into some, just like Jaffer said, what if you get into some online job and you're having a conversation with a man, a client? You feel what I'm saying? He's not, just keeping it real. He's not aware. And I'm taking my free time. I clean the clothes, I wash, everything's good. But I'm over here with this client, and we don't know what's going on. So it still goes back to permission. It still goes back to structure and authority. And if the man has that greater authority over the wife, there needs to be a hard conversation. And once again, everyone needs to know exactly what's going on. If you got this type of job, the online job or whatever, if you're working for yourself, back to that again. If you're working just so spare time, I'm talking to this guy client, he's going to do this and do that. And I'm going to keep saying guy client because, again, this stuff is real. This stuff happens. If you get into some type of online-based business, we already know all your clients are not going to be female. You feel what I'm saying? So just to make it short and condensed.
If a good idea is just random thought that if you're going to do an online job, a faceless online job, go ahead and register yourself as a man. That way, all the guy clients are going to think you're a dude. So you're good.
Then she ain't no clients.
True. I wanted to say this real quick, as far as like getting the money or demanding the money. You have some cases like if you're in a relationship where like, and this is probably most relationship where the guy's like, okay, like as long as you're not doing nothing haram or no inappropriate interactions, do whatever you want with your free time, right? And then she happens to go like, well, I'm just going to get this online job and make some money. And then the husband finds like, wait, you've been making how much money? No. I need that money, right? You can't come in after the fact and be like, okay, now give me all your money. I demand it. Like, no, it has to be like, you might be like, from this point forward for you to work, now I need it. But don't try to like come in after the fact and like, oh, dang, she was kicking. Oh, I need that money. No, don't do that.
Which that does happen sometimes. But I would say, yeah, absolutely. The first thing is permission. Yeah, you have to have permission if she's going to work. But for example, like my wife works inside the home. I mean, she does, she takes students or whatever, and sometimes she might be, with students for 30 minutes at a time, hour at a time, sometimes an hour and a half or whatever. It doesn't even cross my mind that she even makes money. I don't even think of it now that I think about it. I guess they are paying her, but my thing is, it doesn't cross my mind, because as long as the things that I need are being taken care of, and sometimes I might need her. Sometimes I was like, oh wow, she's teaching or whatever. I just, go about my business, but it depends on who you're, depends on the relationship. But of course, like if I say, you know what, I don't want you to teach or whatever, man, she'll drop those students mid-class. She's like, all right, I gotta go. So it's fine. It's fine as long as it's things that the husband needs to be taken care of. But definitely you have to have permission. And if, as a condition for that permission, he says, well, yeah, you can work, but you're gonna have to pay me 50% or 100%. Then they could do it.
So
I want to clear this last part up. Let me clear this last part, because I don't want this. I keep hearing us say this, and it's not this. So we already agreed that 1% of a man's, total earnings is he tries to keep for himself. Like, oh, I bought a little, some shoes or something. 99% is for the family. So it's realistic for us to believe and think that if the woman, the wife, gives 50%, 70%, that's going into that pool of the 99%. So when you're saying give me the money, it's more so, funnel this money through the umbrella, of the head who deals with that. So when you say me, it's kind of like women are going to, we know women, they're going to give you don't need to. It's for the family. If that is the ultimate goal, and he puts the stipulation, 99% of the time, he's probably going to take that money. He doesn't need it. He's going to take that money and further the direction that the family is going. So it's for the family. He's just saying, making sure it funnels through the umbrella of the head of the house so that he can kind of put some together, So I just want to make sure that that's clear. I keep hearing us say, give it to the man, and it just sounds like he about to just run out and go off to Vegas somewhere and trick it off on a casino.
A lot of men do, unfortunately.
That's true too.
This leads into the next question is should a man accept voluntary money from his wife if she's working? So like she's working on her own time, all the needs of the house is being met, and she gets a part-time job at home working online. And she says, hey, I want to give you money for this bill or that bill. Should a man accept it?
Me personally, I would say if I'm capable and I'm doing my thing and all that, I don't really need her bread. So I would say, let's put it in a pool and let's get some structure and go after a goal. The same thing we talked about initially, and again, I'm coming from my mind frame, how I always want to just kind of get to some financial, playing field to where I'm financially free or stable, meaning, i.e., we have consistent residual money coming in, and we don't have to go out and put those man hours in because we've already built this. So I would say let's put it towards something like that. I wouldn't necessarily say, oh yeah, let me get this and help with this bill. Man, I mean, I've been paying the bills for the last 20, 30 years. It's, so that's how I would do it.
I'm gonna push back a little bit, but so the idea is like if someone's offered you voluntary money, my answer is gonna be yes, you should accept it. Someone's trying to give you a gift, and she's doing it for whatever reason she's doing it, and there's all these positives that are gonna happen if like she's voluntary. You don't need it. She knows you don't need it, but she's trying to get whatever fulfillment or satisfaction by helping out. Now, if you accept it, it actually does the same thing that you just mentioned, because like you just mentioned, what's the man going to do with the money anyway? That leftover money that he gets from saving, but it also does two birds in one stone, because that same money is going to get put up for whatever goal or whatever strategy that you have for your family. But she also gets the fulfillment of like, yeah, look, I helped him out in this net. But it's very important that it's understood and known and that you make it clear within yourself and with her, you don't need it and you're not dependent on it.
Let me push back on you. Let
Yep.
me push back. You're absolutely correct, Jaffer. But what do we already know? We have to pay attention to information that is consistent.
Mhm.
Typically, even if a woman voluntarily gives you something or something like this, they usually bring it up. If you get into an argument or something, they're going to bring it up and throw it in your face. So you have to actually make that clear too. Like what you're saying, I do not need it. I appreciate it. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. But if you just take it, oh man, she's trying to do a good deed. And then you go.
Yeah, well, she already knows you don't need it because you got everything paid. So like the thing,
they don't care about that.
no, see the same thing's like, so like if your strategy is, oh, okay, well, you got that money, we're gonna take it and go towards this, right? And I'll give a real life example. I'll try to change it up a little bit. So say for instance, you're like, okay, you know what? Instead of, I don't need money for bills. I don't need your help, but that money you want to give, let's take it and put it towards buying a different house, right? Mm-hmm. That same thing that you just mentioned is going to be the same thing that that type of woman would do when you actually buy the house. I paid for this. 50% of it is mine, this and that. So the same risk of that taking the money is going to always exist no matter how you take it, no matter what you put it for, right? But I think the key is that it's known, because once you're taking care of those needs, right, and it's known that, okay, I actually don't need this. She knows that she's just helping out for just the goodness of her heart to just help out and make things easy for you. Then that's where it's okay to take the money. But if she's in a space like all your guys' needs aren't being met and she feels like, oh, I have to help him pay this electric bill, otherwise, in that case, that it's a higher risk and you actually have to take it because you actually need it. But as far as like them bringing it up, throwing it in your face, that's going to happen even if she didn't put money into it. She's going to say, I swept these floors, I washed these dishes. You wouldn't have had this house if it wasn't for me. I'm like, what? Wash the dishes? I mean, it's true. It's going to happen no matter what.
They'll put in about 1/10
yeah.
of total pot and swear they went 50-50.
If she bought the ketchup, she's like, I'd pay for this whole meal. We didn't need ketchup. What do you mean?
Oh, it's funny.
Well, to answer the question, the best example is you already know who the best example is, and he did not have a problem with being happy, and one of the reasons why Rasulullah's wife Anha was regarded at the level that she was, because she didn't have no issue with doing whatever was needed, and financially she did help out a lot. So if Rasulullah doesn't have any issue with taking money or receiving money, I don't want people to get that twisted. He didn't take any money from anyone, but from his wife, helping in the cause really for Islam, but actually helping and supporting and bankrolling some things, some operations or whatever at times when they needed it, then I don't think any man should be too prideful to take any money. So the answer is yes, a man should, but the only thing is sometimes when you do have, and there's certain people, it's not just women, but men too. There's certain type of people who they do favors like that, but it's for some other ulterior motive.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They want to give you something, but really it's so that they can bring it up later, or so that they can leverage it against you later, or use it to. So for instance, sometimes women will give their husband money, they'll buy things, maybe they'll buy him a car, and then when their friends are around, they'll make sure that they mention, if their husband says anything about, him paying for things or him working hard, hey, you know what, I bought the shoes that's on your feet, type of thing, where that type of person, I personally would not accept anything from them.
True.
You do that to me one time, it's like, hey, give me my shoes. I've actually bought those shoes for you anyway.
We actually had a real life example of this with not a woman.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Exactly. So we know that this happens, but the thing is, that happens. And so you mentioned that, I won't wear those shoes again. Now, or just like, sometimes it's like, maybe they have a newer car or whatever. So whenever the family might go somewhere, if you need to take a trip, it's like, oh yeah, let's just take my car, because okay, cool. Well, you're always gonna use my car. I mean, all right. That's the last time I'm gonna drive it then. So the thing is, it's like that. Sometimes you have that thing, and it's not even really an ego thing, but you have to keep them in check sometimes, because then they have to really realize, all right, you have to realize that I'm not dependent on you. You're offering something, so I'm accepting it, but you're not going to throw it back in my face.
Yeah.
And so to keep them in check, to show them that, okay, wow, he really does not need my car. He actually does not need me to do anything. So if I'm doing that, it should be to make him happy. But if he's not happy because I keep throwing it in his face, and I need to check myself, and then actually it helps. They will correct themselves if you stop accepting it. So, well, why don't you want to? Because this is what you did last time.
Yeah.
This is what you've been doing. So we're not going to accept that. So you should accept it. But if they have that type of personality, then you have to try to get that in check. If they don't get it in check, then if you don't need it.
That's a good answer that kind of summarized all of us what were our positions on it is. Yeah, that's it. So in short, for you guys, just to sum that up, what we all three of us had said pretty much the same thing. If you have a person that is a wife that has these good qualities, it's not going to throw it in your face, it's not going to bring it up, it's not going to use it against you, that's not being used as some kind of leverage for some other ulterior motive, yeah, no problem with taking the money. Don't come to it. But if this wife she's someone that throws stuff in your face, is going to bring it up, she's actually using it because she wants to do something else, then don't take the money. So that's a really simple way of kind of just summarizing it, of how to deal with that situation. The next question is, this one actually came from the audience, and it says, so we'll cover you have 3 questions, and then if Hussein doesn't mind, I'll let Mubarak give like the final advice on this topic, and then we can close it up. So the question is it wise to seek marital counseling? Why or why not? And if so, when should a married couple seek counseling? This is from a woman.
Marital counseling, I think it's probably it's probably best to actually seek some marital counseling before you get married, to make sure that not only you're marrying the right type of person, but that you have some sort of framework to deal with issues before they come up. A lot of times when things become issues, they very rarely, I mean, I don't want to say rarely, but it's very hard to work your way out of them once you get in that tangle. But definitely you should get marital counseling if you're having problems, instead of just bailing out. Yeah. You should go to, because some people, they'll say, well, let's get premarital counseling. They'll jack up their marriage or have all types of issues, and then they won't go back to counseling. They were just bound.
Yeah.
So you should definitely, before you make a decision on not being married anymore, or just struggling through, if you're in a marriage where you're not happy, you're having trouble, this is not good for you, emotionally, physically, financially, whatever, then seek counseling. But counseling is not just venting to your girlfriend, or just complaining about your wife or husband to your boys or your friends or whatever. Actually, counseling has to be someone that has the experience and the knowledge to help you. Yeah. So sometimes people have the knowledge. They know, okay, well, Islam says this about marriage or whatever. That's knowledge. They know. But the experience is actually, okay, I went through this before, and you take the experience and the knowledge together. These are the people that can counsel you. You can't really counsel a person, I don't think, not adequately. The best counselor is someone who has the experience, maybe with some of the same issues you dealt with before, or they've been married for a long time, or they've been married multiple times or something like that. And they have also the knowledge to then bring that experience and give you something to work with. But don't just say, well, I'm just going to go get marital counseling. Sometimes, I mean, we've heard in the past, sometimes people are their marriage counselor. This person ain't even married, or has never, had more than one wife or something like that, or, doesn't have any children. So they don't know all the intricacies. So in short, you get counseling, but it should be for someone who actually can help you. They have knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah. I'll just add on to this, is that like the part about the premarital counseling, or more importantly, the premarital education, like I'm of the point, like I won't no one's asked me in a while, but I was like, I'm not marrying anybody unless I know they know like the basics of husband, wife, duties, responsibilities. Like you need to know this before I say I'm going to conduct this marriage for you, right? Things dealing with divorce and what a husband can do, what a wife can do, because these are all the issues that come up during the marriage. And if you don't know the baseline, then this is sure to fail. You know, I think we did like a little impromptu anecdotal survey, and people were responding like, I don't know what my rights are, what their rights are. Like, well, what the hell? What are you in the marriage? Like, what are you doing? Right. And then the other part to add on to about like the counseling is that when Mubarak says knowledge, also should be included. Make sure you include that knowledge, Islamic knowledge about the things I just mentioned, because you'll have people that, alhamdulillah, like people will seek them out for marital counseling because like you see that they're actually in a successful marriage, right? You see from the outside, like, look, they got a good relationship. They've been married for 30, 40 years. But alhamdulillah, they just happen to work out that way. But then when you come to them with issues, they actually don't know anything about like, oh, wait, I don't know if three talaqs equal a divorce, or I don't know that a husband has to provide. Like they just worked out together and they had a successful marriage, alhamdulillah. But when you bring some specific issues, like I've seen where, you know, someone will go to marital counseling and the person counseling them will be telling them stuff that is like borderline haram. Like, no, you can't tell them to do that. That's not how that works. Or you'll see, you know, and this is another thing I really wanted to mention is you have to make sure, and it might be something that we even probably should include to our premarital discussion, or when you're talking about the contracts and all that, maybe we did, who it will be that you actually will seek counseling from, because you'll have a lot of times, mostly women, I'm sorry, women, mostly y'all, they start answer shopping. So you get into a marriage with somebody that you know is traditional, abides by conservative Islamic values, right? But then when you get marital discord, you purposely seek out like a liberal imam or someone that you know is going to give a certain type of answer. No, you don't want to do that. You want someone that could actually objectively look at your situation and be able to say like, no, you're wrong. This is wrong. This is right. This is the way to go, right? Basically someone that aligns with your marital values led by the husband, because the husband's the leader, because you want the guy or the woman that's going to be giving you counseling to align with that, right? You've seen too many times. How many times have you seen, you guys don't have to answer, but I'm pretty sure you've seen this, where you have we'll give the boat analogy, couples in a boat. They hit some rocky waters and they need someone to guide them. They're like, okay, let's go to brother and sister so-and-so to get some counseling. And the counseling they're giving is like, no, that counseling is for the whole different river. That's not for where actually we want to go. I'll give my own personal experience, right? I won't say what we were getting counseling about, but we, you know, in the little silly cult we were in, they're like, oh, you guys need marital counseling. You need to go to brother so-and-so, right? It actually worked out because we went to the counseling session and we were like, you know, on board, like we're about to get divorced. After the counseling session, because of the silly crap that this brother was saying, we both were like, yeah, we ain't listening. We were both like, yeah, we don't know what they're talking about, right? And we actually like it formed it like, okay, we need to figure this out by ourselves. But just know who you're getting counseling from, because so many times. And last thing, sorry, I went on tangent. Last thing, if you're Muslim, don't go to any non-Muslim counselors for effing anything, unless like you're dealing with abuse, and that's a whole different realm. There's no Muslim counselors available. A non-Muslim marital counselor, I almost guarantee you your marriage will end in divorce. Yeah. I almost guarantee you it will.
I mean, even the non-Muslims, the statistics are very, very high for whenever they go to a, I think it's a psychologist, something like that. They wind up, you know, to deal with their marital problems, they wind up getting divorced. It's very high. But I would say, just to add to what Jafar is saying, is that the thing is, if you're having, as a Muslim, if you're having trouble in your marriage or whatever, I think if you don't know who or how, or, you know, how to go about it as far as counseling, who to seek out, the best thing you could probably do Not some. You don't just. Sometimes people just find the oldest couple they can find. Just too old, old auntie, uncle, or whatever, grandma, or whatever. Sometimes that works. Sometimes, but the best thing to do is to find the person who knows the most about the religion. That person should be able to either help you or direct you to someone who can.
Yeah.
But sometimes we just go to, some old person in the family, or just, or sometimes, your mother is always going to be on your side. Your mother's always going to be on your side. Hey, you could be, the person could be beating his wife and it's like, hey, you gonna hurt my baby's hand. So you gotta be careful, like seeking the advice from your mother, but shout out to the mothers out there. It's not an attack on the mothers, but just try to find gather the most knowledge on the topic as you can, sometimes from person or whatever, and the wisdom, and put that together. Even that, like I said, the knowledge and the wisdom has to go together. Sometimes an old person, they have the wisdom, but there's certain piece of knowledge that's missing, and they wind up missing stuff. And the same thing, a person, they might be young, they might have knowledge, but they don't have the wisdom, so they can't really, they don't know how to plug that knowledge in. But it's not easy. Relationships are they take work. I mean, some people they watch these movies, The Notebook, because I'm like, I know we bash The Notebook all the time. Anyway, and think it's just gonna be like a fairy tale. No, you gotta work on it, man. I'm serious. I would say that I'll just say this, that I mean, I don't have I wouldn't say that I have some sort of complaint or whatever with my wife. But I know that, at times, I mean, she gets very, very, very annoyed with me and very upset with me about certain stuff. But it's not like an issue where when you have a bad relationship where you getting upset with a person causes an issue. And I get upset with her, but it's not like it's like not an issue. It's like, man, you get annoyed or whatever. I call it annoyed, even if you're upset. But like you still can easily, work through it. So it happens. It's not like anybody who thinks, well, if I just, get another wife, or I get another husband, or if I just get rid of this wife or get rid of this husband, then everything's going to be great. No, you're going to have a lot of the same issues that you had, in whatever relationship you're in. It's just how that you work through those with the person, so you're not going to be in a fairy tale.
This segues into one of the questions we have, and I'm just going to pick up from where Mark left off. The question is, why is polygamy so hard? I don't know any who are doing real good. So, and this says it's from Prefer Not to Say. So we don't know if it came from a man or a woman, but just to piggy off, because Mubarak actually, in my opinion, answered this question. And this is my stance on polygamy. Polygamy is just as hard as monogamy. And the problem is that because there's two wives, and that's the most visible thing in the marriage, whenever there's marital issues, people automatically say, oh, it's because of polygamy. But in fact, those same issues exist if that person was married to one of those wives. However, polygamy is giving a different way for those problems to manifest themselves. Okay, and it's too often that people blame it on polygamy, and just there's more monogamy relationships that end than polygamy relationships, right? So we don't say why is marriage so hard? I don't see anybody doing it right. No, you do, and people don't pay attention to the ones that are good situations that are actually working, and they'll see a perfectly fine polygamous situation working. I know of one, right, where because I hear people talk. Man, and these women are in a perfectly good polygamous situation, right? Really hardly no issues at all. But people from the outside will manufacture issues. Oh, you see, and they'll manufacture issues that when you actually think about it, like, that's not an issue. Oh, how can they just go everywhere together? That's just so weird. Something's wrong with them. No, nothing's wrong with them. They're actually doing things right. Well, how come so-and-so has a new car and the other one doesn't? See, he ain't treating them right together. The wives aren't complaining. They know what's going on inside. But I'm just saying, like, stop blaming everything on polygamy. Marriage is hard, period. And have the position that actually polygamy is actually easier than monogamy in a lot of different ways. If you take out the financial, that type of stuff, a lot of different things as far as like interpersonal relationships, dealing with the stuff that you have to deal with can be easier in polygamy. But I'll leave it at that.
So
you know what, Jaffer, hold on, let me just say this. Jaffer, you like that All-American running back, right? That all-pro, all-star, baller, whatever. But you got suspended for a year or two, and then you it's easy, man. Like when I jump back in, like when you get back on the court, you're like, oh man, I'm like, yo, yeah, you really do gotta. So it's like, I get it. I get what you said.
I'm MJ when he came back and scored 45.
Yeah, you're MJ when you came back. He was getting busted up for a little while until he got back to it. So I'm saying you might be Jordan like, but it ain't as easy as it looks. No, I would say that I will agree with you a lot. So listen, relationships take work. They're put it this way, they're heavy. And the stronger you are at relationships, the easier that weight is. I don't want to say that they're hard because I don't look at, my situation as being hard at all. Like it takes there's some mental gymnastics that you got to go through or whatever. But the stronger you are, the easier that heavy weight is to lift. That's why. So strengthen yourself, make yourself strong enough to where that heavy weight that's whooping someone else's behind, you're doing it easily. But
yeah,
it's like this. If you're the reason why polygyny is hard, so to speak. Why?
Before I forget what you just said, I just figured out. Go ahead. I figured out in my head, but I'll make sure I mention it after you get done. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I don't want you to lose.
Okay, so let me clarify because what he just said, I just figured it out in my head, right? So if you are in monogamy, I'm talking to the men, you're in monogamy, and you're married to, I'll put numbers on it so it's easier to understand. Okay. If their second one coming in is an upgrade from what you have, it actually makes your situation easier. My theory. It'll make your situation easier. If you are equalizing, like they're both the same quality, it's gonna get harder. And if the one's below what you have, definitely gonna get harder. So I say that all to say, like, goes back to the whole point of selection. In my situation, I actually didn't really even pay attention. I lucked out. I was one of those couples that I just lucked out. I didn't even think about all the stuff that I know about now to pay attention to look for and all that. I lucked out. But it's all about selection with the first one and selection with the second one. So if you got like two good ones, right, 2 A pluses, life's gonna be so much easier for you. But if you pick bad first and you pick bad second, no doubt it's gonna be hard.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna just say this, and we definitely need to wrap up. We've been going. It's been a good show, though. Real good topic. I actually agree with both of y'all, and I know I kind of say that a lot, but I always try to find that little sweet spot in between. I actually agree with a lot of what's being said, and I'm going to go to the other end of the spectrum where I just think, I don't want to say all in all, but a lot of us have gotten soft. The women have gotten soft and cottony and fluffy, and the men have gotten soft and cottony and fluffy. So if you look back during the rougher, harder times where things you had to really work together, you had to really kind of get, not saying there weren't no issues, but you had to kind of put a lot of that stuff aside and get to the goal, which is trying to make sure you take care of the families and all this and all that. I think that the men need to become stronger, and I think that the women need to become mentally stronger as well. And I think that that's why I was saying I agree with you guys, because you can say it's hard, but it does not have to be hard. And also the selection, and a lot of us, we don't do that right. Unfortunately, we don't select correctly. we kind of see somebody, they look great, they look good, you know, our minds get a little fuzzy and we're like, we just start trying to put a daggone a circle, square into a circle or whatever, you know what I mean? And we just want to make it work. And we don't take the necessary steps to go through that process correctly about selecting, you know, just in hindsight, looking back on all of the different scenarios and situations we've all been in, we can all comfortably say, hey, I could have, man, just like you said, Jaffer, I mean, alhamdulillah, you know, golden child, you know, you lucked up, you struck gold, you know what I mean?
Yep.
first or second strike, he hit gold, you know what I mean? Somebody else over here striking for 20, 30 years, you know?
That's why we always say, man, listen, man, I know Jaffer's advice, like textbook is perfect, but get a ratchet Joan and then try to get one of these ratchet Jones and try their mind games. No, but seriously, let me say this, because I'll just say that, you know, see, if you get a bad wife and you have another bad one, or just an average one, or whatever it might be, I think that's easier. I think sometimes if you have a really, 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 really good wife, and then you don't have that strong of a other wife, I don't want to say second or first, it could be the first, could be the second one that's weaker, right, and just not up to par, can't keep up, it's just not at the level in those areas that matter to you, then it will not be a good situation. It will not be, you will not be able, it'll be very hard, it'll be harder. I can say that probably, I mean, I'm talking about more than 10 years now. I always, let's say, I always keep a second one in the chamber. I always had at least two, sometimes three. But I will say that when you have 2 or 3 wives and they actually are working together and getting along and not giving you trouble and stress, and it's really, I can swear by Allah, it is the most, like, you literally live like a king. I'm talking about, it is not comparable. Having one wife as opposed to having 2 or 3 or 4 that actually are running the program. They are not bucking the system. They are literally just
even for the women too.
Yeah, for the women, yeah. It is uncomparable. But what happens is you might spend 10, 11 months out of the year where everything is great. That 1 month or that 1 week or that couple of weeks can cause such a catastrophic situation that it ripples throughout the rest of the year, the rest of the relationship, and sometimes it ends the relationship. So that's the thing. So when I say it's there's a balancing act, there's some mental and some emotional, positioning that you have to do, and you have to always be, on the ready. You can't really relax. You can't relax at all. Yeah. You let your guard down, and you wind up having an issue. But I would say,
that's a good point. You mentioned this a little bit earlier when you're talking about if you're the type of person that wants to just chill, and if you're that type of guy, then maybe polygamy isn't the answer, because you always got to be mentally maneuvering, thinking, and you can't chill. You don't have a second off.
Yeah, I mean, it's just lots of mistakes. I think about all the mistakes that I made, like when I first got in, just like you really, if you could rewind, of course, if I could rewind 10 years or 20 years, man, it would be, that's why, like I said, we do the show, is because we hope that somebody can catch this, before they, start, making a lot of mistakes, and they can have the success. But yeah. I will say that it's like this, and I'll just say, I know we got to wrap up, but I don't want to leave whoever is thinking about it's hard. The thing is, you have a person, you yourself, and you are going to fit with certain people. When you talk about polygyny and adding a second, third, fourth wife or whatever, you have to really think about not only, okay, you're fitting with this wife, and then also the next wife has to actually fit with you and her. Yeah. Otherwise, you will struggle so hard. I mean, it's not possible. I had a wife one time that said, listen, I'm cool with you. But the one thing I cannot do, I just don't want to ever see your other wife again. I will never speak to her, blah, blah. And I'm like, there's no way it's not possible for this relationship to continue. You can because you're going to have kids, and there one is, basically is like, how are you even having any sort of relationship with the children of your husband when you won't even speak or say a mother's name? It's ridiculous. It'll cause all types of turmoil. So the thing is, you have to actually fit to make it work well. You have to fit. Every additional wife that comes in has to fit with you and whoever else you're with. Otherwise, you're going to struggle. And that's why, I think people find it hard and why people make it hard. But if you have and if you have a really, really good wife, if you have a woman who's really, really excels, especially if you have specified what you need. Sometimes you get married. Because this is what I did. I was married, and then I saw that I needed certain things in my life for my program to run the way that I want it for me and my children or whatever. And so I literally just found someone who could do exactly that. And so it just causes an issue when everyone else that's around is like, I'm not exactly that. And so psychologically, emotionally, it plays in there. So you have a lot of things to do. Sometimes having a really good wife is not conducive for polygyny, because you're very rarely going to get two really good women. You get one, but two is hard. Three, I mean,
one is hard.
Yeah, one is hard. Yeah,
one is hard.
That's why I say you would probably be more successful if you had 2-3 ratchet joints, just a couple, just and you it would be better than to have one that's clearly head and shoulders, like she's just like. You ever see a person that, they always talk about a person like, oh, you think you too good or whatever, you too cute, oh, you think you better than us, that type of person where people that know they're trashy, they know that person is better than them, so they want to attack them for just having some standards about themselves. It's like that. That person is never going to be able to mix with some of these, and I'm not calling any women low levels or whatever. There's nobody that I'm married to or have been married to. That's not what I'm saying. I know they watch the show and then I get attacked later on, but listen, it's not anyone in particular. So go ahead.
All right. Yeah. One more question. We're going to wrap it up. And I think this one could be answered really quickly. So from a woman, she said, I just don't want to be completely dependent on a man. If we get divorced, then I'm left with nothing. So I would just say to that person is that if you want a successful marriage, you're gonna have to let go of that, whatever you went through in your life, your experiences that makes you not trust being dependent on a man. And if you are single, or if we're talking to people that's in that situation or fear, maybe because of their mothers or their sisters or whatever, like you can't be 100% dependent on a man because this man left my mom and left this and this and that, right? You can't let that influence how you go into relationships. And it all goes back to selection. And we talked about this with like contract negotiations and all these different things. Before you actually get into the marriage, there's things you can set up so that you actually aren't, you do have like a backfall or some security. You can put in for, okay, I want this much mahar because I'm going to save it just in case I get divorced. I'll have something to fall back on, right? You can arrange it that, okay, I need this much allowance as part of my maintenance. And there's different things you could do to get that security in a marriage. And you don't get into a relationship where basically you're automatically questioning the dude of whether he's going to take care of you. Because right now you're already thinking about, what if we get divorced? You're already thinking about what's going to happen if we get divorced. And it's better for your relationship that you won't get into divorce if you actually become more dependent on your husband for financial, emotional, spiritual, all these different things that you need in your life. It's better if you depend on your husband for that and that he can provide those for you. And you don't have to worry about getting divorced.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. That's you kind of hit some of the points that I was going to say. There's two things at play here. Number one is if you are dependent on him, just like if a person is drowning, they're going to fight really hard to stay afloat or whatever. Yeah. They're going to do whatever they had to do. So it's not like we don't want to compare it to you dying or whatever. But if you're dependent on your husband, you're going to be a better wife normally, or you might lose him. So it's actually this, you not wanting to be dependent on him is your way of ducking accountability, responsibility. Just take responsibility for being a good wife, for being good at your job, and you won't have to worry about him divorcing you. Take that.
No,
That's a very good point.
Y'all spitting right now because again, both of what y'all said, and I hate to sound like a parrot. Spot on. Let go of that malarkey. Focus on being the best type of wife you can be. That's a fear-based mentality, and you're already thinking about the back door. What husband wants to put up with that? What husband wants to even deal with that where his wife has a little secret hatch back door? You feel what I'm saying? But yet he's required to go 100% and do all this stuff. Or we not going to say 99%. But meanwhile, she has a secret back door hatch. That don't even make sense.
Just in case.
We talked a lot about like the psychological effects of different actions that mainly from the men's perspective, but it happens to both sides. So this lady's like this lady who asked this question, think about this. Think about your husband and how it'll affect how he's a husband to you. If you go to work, right? And he's like, he's like me, like, yeah, you want to work? Go work. Go ahead. Do what you got to do, girl. I don't want your money. Keep your money. But I'm going to say, even like from my perspective, like say if I let my wife work, go work, get yourself fulfillment, do whatever you want to do. I don't need any money. I don't want any money. And then time goes on. I find out she's like stacking up. Like she's got thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in the bank. Right. And of course the conversation is going like, yo, what do you plan on doing with that money? What are you doing? Like, what's your plan? I just want to know what your plan is. And she's like, well, this is just in case we get divorced. Right there, a switch is going to go off in my head. And I'm like, I ain't doing none of this crap I was doing for you anymore. You getting the bare minimum. Right there, I just changed how I am a husband. Whereas if she didn't have any money, and I knew that it's like, oh, she's totally dependent on me for everything, even dependent on me to somehow provide for her if something happens to me, right? When I talked about like, okay, I want you to go to college because if something happens to me, I want you to take care of yourself. When I'm in that mental space, guess what? I'm doing almost everything I can to be a good husband because she's depending on me to be a good husband. And as soon as I realize like she's not dependent on me, I'm going to tune out on those things that she don't depend on me for.
Exactly. You brought up a good point because naturally we're going to switch and be like, okay, I'm doing a bare minimum. Why? Because you got to protect yourself as well. You can't let someone run up the mountain and you're giving 99% and they're telling you, this is just for backup, just in case Chadwick Channing Pennington comes along. You know what I'm saying? And, it's like, what? And I'm actually going to clip this last part because women need to understand this and see this. I understand where they're coming from the aspect of, oh, but what, when they start, basically, no, I don't understand. Let me retract that. I don't understand because when you guys sit down and agree to get married, you are agreeing to trust this man right here. You feel what I'm saying? It goes right back to the selection process. Now, if you went and got Pookie or Ray Ray, if you went and got some low-level dude and you just wanted her to get married and stuff like that, and he was showing you all the red flags, that's a different story. But if you have a person that's established or you can see his resume, you have no reason to have this fear-based mentality unless you're up to something nefarious. Or what else are we going to think?
I'm going to give this lady a better strategy, right? This is if she has a good man, right? Or I'll say even the average man because we default to this type of behavior, right? If you have an average man, not going to say whether he's good or average mentality of how he thinks, how he behaves. Your goal is you want security. First of all, don't think of security as like, what if he leaves me or divorces me, right? Think of it as how I mentioned it, like, what if you pass away? What if you die or you get locked up or whatever the case may be? Not of you thinking of going and being with another man, because that's how a man's going to think of it if he hears this type of stuff. Oh, you're thinking about being with somebody else. That's what we'll default to. You will actually get more security. Let's just put it real tangible. You want $20,000 in the bank for security purposes. You will actually get to that goal quicker if you put yourself in a position to totally depend on your husband and you go to him and say, hey, husband, I think we need like $20,000 in the bank that I could easily access just in case, like, say you get hit by a car. That way I could take care of the kids, this, that. If the man truly believes like you're committed to the relationship and dependent on him for that security, you will actually get to that goal faster. And if you combine that with all the advice you get in the show with, okay, I'm going to go work for the specific time period for the specific goal, you'll actually get to that $20,000 goal for security faster. But what instead, and what most people women are going to do hearing this, like, no, I need to keep my job. You're going to keep your job. You're going to keep making money. You're going to keep spending all your money. And then when he divorces you, you're going to be in the same exact situation as if you were totally dependent on him. So it's like self-defeating.
You went backwards because you lost the man's trust. You went backwards because you lost his trust. Now he's like, no, I gotta give her the bare minimum. I gotta keep an eye on what she got going on because I don't know what. And then women always say, oh well, I'm at a disadvantage with poor little me. When men have children with y'all get that leverage. We're at a disadvantage because y'all can then take them children, run up the mountain and start using them as pawns and chess pieces. This is a lot of times what women do. And then we're behind the 8 ball because now we're still on the hook for taking care of them. Of course, most of us don't have an issue with taking care of our children, but then y'all start playing these little games with time and manipulation and alienation, all this different stuff. So the man has lost leverage. He's lost a lot of leverage by simply having children with a unwell woman. He's lost leverage.
It's so much stuff they do that's counter, even like with the child. I know we're tangent. I know Mubarak has some questions, but even like with the child support thing, if women just realize, if it's a good man, if they just realize that they're dealing with someone who they know is a good father, they will actually get more child support from him than actually putting him on child support.
But what they want, they don't want child support. They want
wife support.
Need support.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Because they know they're gonna get that check, and then you're probably still gonna spend on your kids anyway. So you know, because like usually a lot of times when you pay child support, it's like you just look at it as money that's just lost. You like
it's gone. It's like taxes to me. It's like
exactly.
Like what man, and to drive that nail home, what man gets his child, gets his son or his daughter on his time allotted to him by the big guys? What man gets his child, and then if that child asks him for something, oh wait, I gave your mother child support last week. Nobody does that. We're literally going to just perform like regular, normal. If our child
depends on what they ask for.
Well, I'm saying just in a general. Being petty, though. You feel what I'm saying? Typically,
yeah.
A man is not going to even think like that. Just like you said, Mubarak, we just look at it as money just getting washed away. You know, we already know what the woman is doing. Come on, we ain't fall off the turnip tree yesterday. You feel what I'm saying? We know exactly what's going on, and basically. The child is.
I got so many stories. There's situations where children go to their father's visitation time, and then they're asking their father for basic stuff to bring back to their mother's house, like toothpaste, deodorant. It's like, what? You don't have like basic like. You can't even use the thousands of dollars I give you to buy my kid toothpaste. Like what?
Like I said, that's me support. I don't want to say what the real support is. I'll just say that's support for them. I got other words that I can say, but the thing is, like I said, for the lady to put a bow on it, the lady who asked the question or whatever. The thing is. It's an old, adage of time or however you say the thing. It's like the damsel in distress. Why do men always pull over for the damsel in distress? Men naturally will go overboard. They will inconvenience themselves. They will do extra for a woman who they feel needs them.
Yes.
So if you make your husband feel like, or if you tell him, listen, I need you, and he feels like, man, she needs me, he's going to do not just what you need, but he'll go overboard. This is how men work. Men thrive off of being useful and being helpful and being depended on. This is how men function. We're dependent on, so we do more. It's like, was it pressure burst pipes or it makes diamonds or whatever. So
Yeah.
the more a man is dependent on, he's like, yeah, I got to get this done. He's focused. He's like, he's going to do whatever he can do. So you actually will have a person that when you make him feel like I'm dependent on you, instead of you having to go out and work or go out and I have to need this so that I can't depend on him, that energy that you would be going to work to do that, put it into him. That way he will make the money and hand it to you. But instead you do something on it. So that's the way it meant. So if you want a better husband, him to be better towards you, him to be a better husband overall, make him feel like that you are in need of him, and you'll see the difference. The mistake that some women say is that I don't even need you.
I think you also just solved the criteria for whether you should let your wife work or not. And I think the answer is what you just said, is only if the goal or the result is it actually puts the wife more dependent on the husband, puts you in a situation like, say it's a financial goal, right? You want to get a new house. Okay, you want to get to this position where I'm providing a better house for you so that you depend. Like, basically, that's like, okay, is this going to actually get me in a situation where my wife can depend on me more? Right? She can fully rely on me for X, Y, Z. All her needs are being met. That's a good way to actually think about it as a man. Is like, this is the goal we want. This is the traditional setup we want. Does it go in this direction? Is it pushing us, our marriage and our family, in this direction where I'm the protector, maintainer, provider, and my wife is dependent on that? But you had some question. I'm dying to know what you got cooking. You said you had 2 questions for us. You wanted to answer this question. My bad. I read it wrong. Okay, so with that, we're going to end our show. We need Mubarak to sum up the key points for everybody. If you have any other questions, please enter them into the form. Just put them in. We'll get them. We'll answer them next week. And go ahead, Mubarak. You could wrap it up for us.
All right. Well, I want to say this. Y'all might need to say something after this, but I'll be short because it may not necessarily line up with what everybody 100% agrees on. You can't go 100%. But the thing is, I would say that as far as a woman working, listen, it's okay to be dependent on your husband, as we said. It's actually better for you to be dependent on for your relationship, for the health and happiness of your relationship, for you to be dependent on your husband and him actually coming through for you. It's going to make him feel great. It's going to make you feel great. It's going to get you both what you need. Avoid working if you don't have to. Avoid it at all costs if you don't have to. But if you do, if your wife does work, even if the family needs it or if they don't, it is my recommendation to a woman who has to work to help her family, give all the money to your husband. If he's a good man, you will see that it'll go much farther than what you would do just on your own. He's probably going to give you more than that money back and then some. Now, if you, for the husband who has a wife who does not need her to work, I personally would say make the stipulation that she hands all the money over to you. And then you do what's best for it. Most likely she's going to benefit more than she would anyway. I know that's not maybe not popular. It's definitely halal to do. I think it's the best thing to do. But as we said in the very beginning of the show, the best thing is for it to be the standard way. The man goes out, he works hard, he brings the money and the resources in. The wife and the children benefit from that, and everybody's happy with the situation. Hopefully that's the case.
Yep, and the only different perspective is the situation. I agree with Mubarak on everything except for the one part about if you're in a situation where your wife does not need to work, but she wants to work. And I think, and I'm not saying I disagree with him, but the decision of whether to take her money or take some of her money in that voluntary situation, include that decision with what is the purpose or the reason of actually why you're allowing her to work. Yeah. Right. So include that in there, and the stipulation of whether you take some of the money or all of it or some of it, it works in with you mitigating the risk of the negative things that you are going to encounter with her working. So, and it might tip the scale of being a benefit. And like you said, as far as guys are looking at it, the biggest benefit that the man or the husband is going to receive from that is a financial benefit from that. But there's certain things you got to weigh, because you also have to consider that if she's a good woman, maybe even not even a good woman, a stereotypical woman, she is going to contribute to the financial goals. However, it's not going to be totally aligned with how you want to get there. For instance, she's going to spend on herself, which is going to alleviate some of the pressure of you having to spend on her. However, it's going to be more in the want category and less in the need category. Same thing for when she spends on the house for curtains or new couches or stuff for the children. You just have to keep that in mind. It'll help you, but not as much as if you just say, hey, give me that $1,000 because I know what actually is going to really help us more than, we actually didn't need it.
Man, just give me that money, girl. Let me just say this, and I'm gonna keep that promise. One time, I mean, seriously, I think that it's best practice I'm talking about all money should run through the husband. I'm seriously, before, it should be a cosign. Before you can swipe something, be like, do you accept this debit or whatever? Okay, yes, and accept or decline it. Because listen, I gave my wife a bunch of money one time. I mean, I'm talking about she filled the house with stuff we didn't need. I'm talking about filled it. I couldn't even walk in the joint. I couldn't even walk in the joint at one point because the house was filled with stuff we did not need. Just stuff, just big as it's like, we don't even have room for this stuff. And this is what they do. So I'm just saying, I
got about 100 plants upstairs. It looks like a jungle.
So, I'm just saying.
I would say this. I actually agree with Mubarak 100% because of our experiences and what we've experienced. No, it's probably going to work best if you funnel the money. Now, again, I'm not going to go 100%. I'm going to stay somewhere around, I don't even care about my percentage. It's not going to be 100. But as long as structure is created, men, we deal with structure all day, every day. This is one of our specialties. Yeah. Women don't deal with that. Women are a little bit chaotic and kind of just all over the place, not coming at their neck, but this is kind of like how they, they're just kind of whimsical and just, whatever they feel, they just do whatever. Men are more structured, so it makes sense if you're going to do something financially and you guys are quote unquote sharing the same goal. You need to funnel the money through the husband. He's been doing this since the dawn of the dinosaurs. You feel what I'm saying? He's been doing this since this is what we're created, how we're designed. We are good at this. Don't go rogue and, split the canoes up. Keep in line with that situation as best as you can because it's going to be more beneficial. And when we're talking about giving 100%, I'm going to just keep it real with you. I'm the type of person, if my wife if she trusted me on that level, she's going to get more than 100% of what she gave me. If she gave me $100 and I had, and the opportunity that I'm able to get that back to her, it's going to probably be 200 or 300, 3 times X. This is the type of person that I am. If a woman or someone depends on me and trusts me to that level, it's going to inspire me and motivate me to do my job to the maximum and not have that, what we call it, drawback or fall off. With the opposite is going to happen if the woman is acting like she can't trust you. She has some little secret hatch door on the side. She's down there underneath the canoe, poking holes in your canoe. You feel what I'm saying? But then trying to jump back onto hers or something it's not going to be effective. The best way from my experience and I think our experience is the woman should trust the husband as much as she can. Remember, the key point to what we were talking about is a good husband. If you believe that you have a good husband, you absolutely should be trusting him in this way. Absolutely. It's no reason not to. Remember, you have a good husband. So why not?
Not to poke the bee's nest, but if you have a good husband or a good wife, why not?
That's true too. That's true too.
So one thing I want to mention. So just one real quick. I don't want to get too far into the disagreements or whatever. But it's always important to identify what your goals and what you value in the marriage. And for a lot of guys, you know, we're transactional. We look at things of, you know, back and forth. We look at success in a marriage as financial goals, success in the family as financial goals. If you value that, then make sure that your decision of how you deal with your wife working and whether you take money and all that aligns with those goals. But just to be clear, not everybody measures success based off of financial goals. And that I'm one of those that doesn't measure success of a marriage or a family in financial goals. So that's why a lot of the stuff I say doesn't go along with, okay, make sure you're getting money, make sure you're getting financial benefit out of it, because I don't see it in that lens.
That's fair. All right, let's wrap this thing up.
All right, y'all, join us next week, Sunday morning at 9:00. And do we know what we're talking about next week? Are we doing femininity as a superpower or?
Yeah.
We did
just give me the money. No.
How about we got how to keep your husband from getting another wife? That gets into polygamy.
I'm so over the polygamy talk. I'm not going to chat with y'all.
How to keep your husband from getting another wife? I think there's another. It might be the.
What is a successful woman? What does success look like for a woman?
We did that one.
Are these old ones?
Yeah, we did that one already.
Might be an old one. Hold
on, somebody ain't been updating the joke.
No, I clicked on the wrong one. Here we go. Wait, no.
We might have to get.
We got a whole week to figure it out, so let's just wrap this up.
Yeah, so we'll let y'all know. We'll post it. It's going to be worth tuning in. Again, if you have any questions, click the link for the anonymous forum. We'll get to them next week. It doesn't matter when you submit them; they'll still be there for us to see. We appreciate everybody joining us today. Everybody have a good rest of the day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You guys make sure you stay on. Don't click off.
Okay.
I was so about to click that joint.
Hold on 1 second.
So we can hang up, right? But not close.
Don't hang up.
Don't hang up.
Yeah, don't hang up. Stay on, because once I gotta. Okay, now I gotta hit this. Then the thing should